Okay. Oh, excuse me. I want to thank you all for having me here, and it's been, let's see, December when I met most of you. I met Daryl at Higginsville over a year ago, but the best time I've had in the last 2 years was your Christmas party. I'm like, that's where I met most of you. As you all know, the captain and I are doing 2 to 3 speeches a week. I'm going all over the country and telling about Albany and the importance of the Battle of Albany. And the funny thing is, I have this wonderful speech that I always use, and I have to convince everybody why it's important. And I come in here tonight, I'm like, I don't have to tell you all. You all are the ones that made me understand why Albany was important. So I'm going to tell you about the highlights of what's coming up with Albany and some of the cool things that we're doing at the museum. And forget the formal stuff, because when I go to these places, these women tell me, why do you ride with the captain? He's a murderer and a rapist. And I just want to cry, because I said, everybody murdered in the Civil War. He didn't do anything that nobody else didn't do. This man was fighting for his family. You all know how that goes. A rapist, he didn't have time. I mean, you know, it's not that way. This was an honorable man. So I know you all understand why he's important. So some of them asked me, I think Daryl asked me what I'm going to do when Albany's over. It'll never be over, because there's a cause to fight for. I'm writing a story about states' rights, and I've rewritten it like 5 times. And until everybody in America understands states' rights, the battle's not over, and my time with Anderson's not over. So that's how I feel. As far as Hughes camp goes, I've been campaigning for you all this week. I've been working with the LDS Church in Independence, trying to help get everything secured about how your marker can be put up for Hughes. I spent all day Monday, and the director of the Independent Center gave me a personal tour, and then I went to Bill Curtis's house. I know most of you probably know Bill Curtis.
Yeah.
Wonderful, wonderful man, and he explained all the things. He's got so much knowledge. So 2 nights a week, or 2 nights a month, 2 Tuesday nights, a Mormon friend and I are going to Bill Curtis's house and document everything in his brain. He knows every story. He's not in the Mormon church, but when the church in Salt Lake needs to know something, they go to him. He knows everything about everything.
That's my cousin.
He's your cousin?
Yeah.
Cool.
Curtis is Richmond.
Yeah, so they're cool people. So my goal for the next year is to make sure that we get the monument marker set up and get all that done, and I want to make sure that goes where it belongs. I think I've found the spot, the little swell in the road, so that's one of my goals. So I want to help you all to make that happen and be there when we have a dedication for it. I think that'd be really cool. So that's what it's all about, is marking history. So everybody knows Ray County. The most important battle in Ray County was when he died. I want everybody to come to Albany, because I feel like the whole Civil War changed because of him. If he had lived, what would have happened? Yeah, the whole thing could have been different. So I don't know. I can't comprehend what it's going to be like. I'm going to have 3 wonderful days in October, and then it's going to be like, the story will still go on. But I'll give you a little bit of what we're going to do in Albany, and then I'll tell you some of the other things that we're going to do. 2.5 years, maybe 3 years by now, that we've been working on Albany. And I've been to several reenactments, and ours is going to be so different and unique because of the extra things that we have. His funeral, that's going to be so epic. In 1908, they came through, Frank James and Cole Younger came through in a Wild West show, and I've got the newspaper story, and we're recreating that exactly. So midday, both days, we're going to go to the courthouse, and we're going to take him from the fairground, like we're having Battle of Albany, to the courthouse, and then we're going to fast forward to 1908, and we're going to go from the courthouse to the cemetery and recreate his funeral with taps and the whole bit. To end the day, every day with his funeral, it's going to be so epic. And then the things that's going to be last after Albany, the Missouri State Parks is doing 2 panels for us. There's 44 panels in Missouri commemorating different parts of Civil War. We're getting 2 in Ray County. When we started this, we were hoping for one and we're getting two. So this is the most epic thing because it'll continue on. There will be a website with all the panels. There'll be road signs pointing there. Albany will have a big state panel, and I'll pass around a picture. I don't know if I had it last time I was here or not, what it looks like. These panels completely done by the state, and we got to help what was put on it. In Albany, the panel is all about the Battle of Albany, and it's got side panels telling other things. The other panel will be at the Ray County Courthouse, and it's all about bushwhackers and partisan rangers. I mean, how cool is that? So Anderson's going to be there, and there's going to be a sidebar that shows you where his grave is. And listen to this, guys. There's a sidebar that sends you to Higginsville. So I'm like, woo, you know. It's a state park, so they insisted that the Anderson House in Higginsville be put on it. And there will be the proper flag somewhere on it. I don't know exactly how that's going to work out, but there's going to be a mopping man on there, and a whole wonderful story on that. So those will last 15 years, and they've got a replacement panel. So for 30 years, there's going to be his story on the courthouse lawn in Albany. So I'll pass around. This is like an example. I don't have the finished product, but it's like a big panel as big as this table. So this is what they look like, and this is an example of the one at St. Joe. So those are, Albany's over, these continue on. So the story's still there, which is really, really cool. Another cool thing that's come out of this, downtown Kansas City Public Library, they had the gorillas in our midst display at the River Valley Room. We got it for the museum. I'm just like, I was up there at a meeting, and I walked out, and on the wall it said Richmond, Missouri, Albany, Missouri, and it had all the bushwhackers, you know, and I was like, these are my partisan men, these are my rangers. So I got in the car, and about halfway home, and I called back, and I called and got transferred, and I said, what are you doing with that exhibit when you're taking it down? And they said, well, we're going to put it in the basement. And I said, can we borrow it? Well, 2 weeks later, they gave it to us. So we have a 2-year contract on that, and they said, just keep it. And we created a room. It's now Anderson's room. So I've got some pictures of what those panels look like. So I want everybody to, Gorilla's in our midst. It's, one lady spent 6 months researching this. This is about a $10,000 project from them, and we got it. So this is Anderson's room. I mean, that to me is, it's so cool. And we put it together and made a wonderful, wonderful room out of it. Very, very lucky on that. This is the exhibit in the local paper that we got. So we'll pass that around. So okay. I wear Provost Marshal, or I have this is my silver day. I have a gold, the moon and the star that I wear on my gold days, depending on my jewelry. Provost Marshal, I know that was Union, right? Everybody asks me what a Provost Marshal is, and I say, well, he was the person that shot deserters. Now I know there's more to it, but that's what I tell them, and then they all leave me alone. I was like, you know, don't mess with Albany. So I have a really cool treat tonight to show you all. This makes me cry. This is history. This is why I do what I do. I have an original document. This is the original, and I've got a blow-up of it. A Ray County Provost Marshal that gave somebody permission to go from Richmond to Lexington for a 3-day pass across enemy lines. Okay, this is how my job is. This is how my life works. This is from Camden, Missouri, which is real close to Albany. We'll pass that around. If everybody, you got to feel a real document. How often do you get a real Civil War document? This started in Camden. Somehow it ended up in California, and this lady from California contacted somebody in Blue Springs that said they had this little pouch, a little leather pouch. It was really cool. It had a bunch of papers in it that were worthless, and they said, make sure the museum gets this pouch because they'll like it. It's from Camden. So this lady from Blue Springs gets it in the mail, and she brings it into me, and I set it there. And that night I'm going through it, and there's a lot of receipts from the store and different things. And then I unfold that paper, and I'm like, oh, worthless papers. I just started crying. I mean, that's the only piece of real Civil War that I've ever actually got to, We've got bullets and cannonballs, but the paper, the ephemera pieces don't last. How many people have real pieces of paper that were there for it? So, I mean, that is so cool. So, I mean, that is wonderful. And if you want to read it, this was actually a provost marshal that was not the #1 provost marshal, but there were several, but he was there. So I mean that's the real history. That's what makes it worthwhile. So I don't know exactly how we're going to display that, but that's what I want. I want the real pieces, the pieces that made it what it is. So Battle of Albany. You all know why we're doing it. So I'll tell you what we're going to do. I've got scheduled in. Did everybody get one of these when I was here last time, or anybody else? I've got some extra of these.
I'd like to have one.
Okay, I'll pass that back to him. This is the packet that we put together, and it's got like all the events in here. We're gonna each day we're gonna do the 10 to 12 minute Battle of Albany, and then we're gonna do a mock battle. And I've been told by Robbie that the south wins one day and the north wins another, and I don't quite understand that, but that's the way it's always been, and that's the way it'll be. And we've got lots of people that are coming to help with Albany, but nobody wants to be northern. It's kind of funny. So we're gonna come up with another.
You'll have that.
Yeah. So I don't know how we're gonna toss a coin and see who has to be on the north side. But
Invite the Iowans down.
there's some from Kansas coming. Yeah, I've got more. You need some more?
Need a couple more here.
Okay, there's some more. And we're gonna take the same packet in the.
Thank you. I'll see what you have.
We're gonna add some ads in the back of it. This will actually be our program for Albany. So this is some of the stories I wrote about why it's important. But we're going to dedicate the panels, the one at Albany on Saturday and the other one on Sunday. And that Robbie always cries when he talks about the panels, and I make fun of him, and now I cry. So it's really, it's going to be so cool. The Battle of Albany. How many people have been down to the Albany marker? Okay. If you haven't been to the back of the program, the Battle of Albany marker, that is one of the most peaceful spots in the world. It's a really neat cemetery just out in the middle of nowhere, and it's got a big wooded area by the side of it. And what we're going to do, we're going to have a very limited service there on Saturday. And there's going to be rangers hiding up in the woods, and they're going to come riding down through the woods on their horses, and we're all down at the bottom. We've got a bagpiper that's going to play, and we're going to have a nice little dedication there. And that's going to be, to me, the highlight of the whole weekend, to have that. So I want to make sure that everybody gets, we won't be taking everybody there, but since you all are our sponsor, you all are welcome to come to that. So we're going to bust down 100, maybe 200 people to that site. So that to me is worth it. And then we'll have a Civil War ball. Bring your wives. We're going to have a tea party for the women. So that'll be fun. Cannon fire at night. I'm looking forward to that. So we'll have the beautiful cannon fire shooting back and forth, and then the funeral in the afternoon. So it's going to be unbelievably wonderful. So is everybody planning on coming?
So the schedule in there is set in stone?
Uh-huh.
Okay.
Yeah, there's a few things that have been added throughout the day that will have ongoing, like some kids programs and the tea party and things like that, but this is all the schedule we've always had, so it'll be good. It'll be good. The museum will be open, and we'll have tours there, and we're going to have some people doing talks, and we're going to have a few artifacts from Anderson, hopefully, on site that'll be neat. So it'll be wonderful. It'll be wonderful. We've recently got some books. There's a guy in Texas that took all the old newspapers and went through and wrote up all the stories. So this is one that is about the provost marshal. I got to tell this story. This is Ray County. 1861. Isn't that what we just? Yeah. The April of 1861. I found a story in here where they raised an 80-foot flagpole with a flag on it, and this, that's early.
The session flag.
Yeah, it took us forever because it had 13 stars, I think is what it said. 15. 15. So it took us a while to figure out what it was, but we went down there and we recreated this last spring. And we kind of decided that was probably a recruiting station. A flag that tall out in the middle of nowhere, that's probably where they were telling everybody to come and recruit. So we did a little ceremony there, and then we wind all on around to the last Civil War battle in Ray County was fought on my farm. I just found this out. You know, my grandmother had always told me this, and we didn't know. And so we just went through that. That would have been in April of the 149 years of it. So that's really cool. So I've got the proper flag. Thanks, Jason gave me some advice on it. We got the proper flag flying in the middle of this 40-acre field out in the middle of nowhere. So that's, to me, Archie Clement killed a Union soldier in combat there, and they chased him all the way to the river. So that's the last of the Ray County Civil War. So to me, that's sacred ground. So that it's been in my family farm for over 100 years. And to me, that's well worth it to always be there. So my Ray County roots run deep. I've got 8 generations have been there, and I didn't understand what the Civil War was about. Been doing this for 2.5 years, and then last year I finally figured out what it was. So I want to thank all of you guys for helping me to understand how important it is and why it's here. So that's what it's all about.
If anybody asks you why there's 15 stars, it was because there's 15 states below the Mason-Dixon line, and Southerners could not believe that all those states would not eventually join the Confederacy.
So they
So
were
in the
predicting
61,
ahead.
yeah, in 61, all the secession flags had 15 stars.
Because we found a book that told the flag, but they didn't tell us why. So I understand now what Little Dixie is. Somebody was telling me that, and I'm like, okay, now I know what that is. So Ray County, we were north of the river, but I made the mistake one day in a speech saying Richmond was occupied by Union troops. And, no, I made the mistake of saying Richmond had a Union base, and one of my friends said, no, Richmond was occupied by Union troops in the middle of town, so Richmond was not Union. And there's all kinds of wonderful stories about all the things that went on around there, and all of our county officials came back and lost their jobs when it was over, so there's just so much history there. So I'm proud of my Ray County and all that they've done, and I'll ride with the captain any day, so I hope everybody else will. So, and if you haven't had your picture taken with him, I want it done for tonight. So.
Did you get one for Cole Younger down in Bates County?
None of them are
Cass
as good
County,
as this one.
Cass County Historical Society.
Yeah, they got one just like they got Cole Younger and somebody else.
Yeah.
Quantrell.
Okay, now theirs are in action, and that's what makes him so epic. Is he's not in action. They're like doing a pose. So James Farm has Jesse doing a pose.
Yeah.
It's not real. I took him up, and I've got pictures of him with the flat Jesse. This man's, I mean, when he put this together, this guy's not taking he's not taking the black off of anybody. This pose is perfect. You know, everybody wants one. I'm like, no, there's one. We're not making any other. This is the only pose that you're going to get. So
Yeah.
it's just that, and his eyes do follow you. I mean, everybody says they do, and they do. So it doesn't get any better than that. So this is my man. But anyway, anybody have any questions or things they want to tell me about Albany, or ask me things we could add to it to make it good?
I just want to make a comment that most of you people were actually living around Albany. That was a huge area for the Union people. Most of the Confederates actually lived over around Liberty and, like you say, Richmond and stuff like that. But there's a pocket south of Excelsior Springs down by Union Baptist Church and Albany where Bloody Bill was killed. The Seagulls live there. He's the one that Liz Johnson keeps claiming that they tore his heart out. Well, I want somebody to give me that document, that evidence that says that actually happened anyway, because, and I think I mentioned it last month, I went to high school with Harry Saltishock anyway, who done a lot of the writing in the 1980s that Brian Smarker, Liz Johnson, all of them were basically getting a lot of their information from Harry anyway, but again, a lot of that area was full of Union people anyway down around where Cooley Lake was at. That was one of the biggest hills. Right when you cross the Ray County, Clay County line anyway. The biggest hill is where Cooley Lake used to sit. I know the family that homesteaded that land that's owned that for years anyway. But the Hutchings lived down there, they were all Union. The Siegels lived down there. I mean, there's a bunch of families. But what kind of gets me about Liz Johnson's writings is, and I don't mean to step on people's toes, but
She doesn't
you're
document
president of
correctly.
Friends of the James Farm, and you keep going on about Philip Siegel having his heart ripped out, and poor Darrell Siegel, his descendant anyway, still lives there. Well, damn, there's a lot of people that still live there. I've got ties to Bloody Bill Anderson, I've got ties to Jesse James, and I can sit there and explain them to her. I know the history better than most of these people do anyway, so it kind of aggravates me when I see them start writing this stuff, and they're supposed to be friends of the James Farm.
She's
And
from
you're
the East
taking up for
Coast.
these Union people. It's like, I don't get it.
Well, Liz comes from the East, and she wants to
Right.
belong, and she doesn't.
Well,
I'm a
my
good
friend
friend of
Harry
hers,
Solskjaer has
but
already told me, she goes, well, he's accused her of plagiarism, and he told me exactly where her writings come from, the documents that she's copied them from, and I haven't, accused her of that yet, but
Yeah.
I'm gonna say in front of everybody in here that, you need to watch out what she's writing or what she's telling people.
yeah, she's always calling me out on something, and she doesn't like the way I do this or that.
I don't think she
Yeah.
likes me too much either, because I've talked to her a few times on their website, Friends of the James Farm anyway, and she keeps telling me, well, just James was born in Kearney. It's like, no, he wasn't. Kearney didn't exist. I happen to be a Duncan.
Centerville.
The started the town of Kearney is a Duncan. So
Centerville.
don't tell me. David Duncan started the town of Kearney. It was Centerville before, and she said, oh, well, just James was from Kearney. No, he wasn't. Kearney didn't exist. And my family, one of my great-great-grandfathers was the first white child born in the town of Liberty, was a lifelong member of Mount Gilead, which was there by, the 1830s, so she's not telling me anything I don't know.
She has good intentions, but she's a Yankee. I'm sorry, but she is. So
Yeah, well, that was pretty obvious. In fact, I know, John Vincent Powers, I sent him a personal message here the other day about who's doing this writing group. He told me, he said, well, that's Liz Johnson. It's like, oh, well, you want to know about Liz Johnson?
yeah,
Let me tell you about my friend Terry Sullivan.
They were on Missouri militia.
Plagiarism, so.
They were normally young and
John
old,
knows.
and
yeah.
they were supposed to,
I
when
just
they
don't
hear the
argue with
drums
her
roll,
because
run to
they're
protect
good,
their nearest
but now,
town.
see, the farm he stayed
Missouri
on was
militia.
definitely
Enrolled
Confederate.
Missouri militia.
Because
There was
he was my
also
farm.
provisional enrolled militia, and then there was state militia, and there was a regular army on the Union side. You had all four.
Funniest part about it is
It really makes research hard.
Well, yeah.
And anytime you see a high number, it's going to either be provisional or EME, because it was done pretty late in the war. And they had so many little towns to protect.
Yeah.
They got
all their comments down below.
leftover guns, leftover uniforms. They looked like crap, but they didn't
And he
care.
got his orders directly from Jefferson Davis to come up here and start
They
looking
had
for
you-
better recruiting camp in Howard County. And so when I see this stuff like that, I kind of get bent out of shape on it. Oh, God.
Howard County run
the
from
Union
St.
mother that
Louis
turned
to-
him in.
Uh-huh.
You all probably haven't heard this story.
It's Mary. It's
Besides
Mary
those
is
four
in my
things in
family.
Missouri,
I'm
then you
going
had
home.
Kansas.
Mary
Mary
Rowland.
The regular U.S.
Okay,
troops, generally speaking.
Yeah, they was pretty.
Besides
Her name was
Kansas
not
militia.
known until the 1960s because the family was scared of something happening to her. So in the 1960s, they finally put a story in the Richmond paper. Mary Rowland was the lady that turned Anderson in. Well, a couple of months ago, I went to visit Mary's grave, and they said, "Did you put a Confederate flag on her grave?" And I'm like, "No, I just talked to her." And she had two sons that were Union sons. So she was a mother fighting for her boys, And I
That's
don't.
what it was.
When it comes down to it, Robbie cries when he talks about the Moppin men. Well, Robbie Moppin found out that he's related to Mary Rowland through his mother. And so he's kind of changed his story now, and he said, it is brother against brother and what all, but I do have a picture of Mary Rowland that will be on one of the signs, because, she made history for us, which, it's unbelievable, but that's the way the whole Civil War was. It was people fighting for their own people. So she was fighting for her boys, just like Anderson was fighting for his dad and his sisters. But it's kind of hard for Robbie. He's taking it a little hard to find out Mary Rowland is there.
I've got your picture on my phone, so if there's anybody here who wants to see a picture of Mary Rowland, I've got it on my phone, so just come see me, because like I say, my wife is a Rowland. And
Yeah.
actually, it's still, their grandfather was Stark Rowland, that Rowland Cemetery is their private family cemetery.
Yeah,
Very,
it's
very
a beautiful cemetery, but it's all still part of history. So anyway, I want to thank you all for letting me come.
Actually, where is New Albany located?
Where?
Where is New Albany located?
Okay, Albany, there's one up north that claims pretty
That's up by
famous, and
me.
that's not us, so.
That's up by me.
Yeah.
That district is where three-
It was where Ori is, yeah, it was in Ray County. So, you know where Ori is? It's just a little bit north of Ori.
It's over in
Up on the
Richmond,
bottom base of the
Richmond,
bluffs.
pretty close to Richmond.
Yeah, the whole along underneath that was Albany, so. So, all right, now, I'm running, what pictures with him after you're done, so.